Yep, everything is good. Call this meeting to order. This is the February meeting of the Town Board of Town of East Troy. It's February 5th, 6:30 p.m. Roll call, Chairman Clarkowski.
Wales here.
Reyes here.
Church here.
Booker here.
Pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Kim, are all our postings in order for tonight's meeting?
Yes, they are.
All right, approval of the agenda. Do we have any comments, changes?
I make a motion, we approve tonight's agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, we have motion by Michelle. Bill, second. Discussion, hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, motion carries. I believe we have only one meeting minutes to approve, and that's the regular meeting from last month. I have two changes, minor. Page 2, under public comments, Ms. Bess, we mentioned Rustic Road. That should be 126, not 127. Correct, Kim, 126?
No, I never went back and listened. Okay.
126.
Then there's another place that it's mentioned.
There might be another place.
There is. I will make sure I make the changes in both places.
Okay. And the second thing I had on page 4, under Planning Commission, trying to better define the county-town roles in the process. That should be ROLES.
Yes, thank you.
That's all I had. Anybody else?
I have no changes.
No changes, nothing?
I just had a clarification under the treasurer's report, the third bullet, where it's just, like in the future, when we look back, when we say motion by Chairman Clarkowski, seconded by Supervisor Wales, to put this on the February 2023 agenda. I didn't know if we should specify. I'm assuming it was resolution 2024-1.
Yes, a previous bullet. You could state it, I guess.
Just thinking like down the road, if someone pulls up this.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it probably should say the resolution 2024-1. That should be stated. Okay. Anything else? Anybody? If not, a motion to approve the minutes.
I make a motion that we approve the Town of East Troy regular board meeting minutes for February, for Monday, January 15th as amended.
All right. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Michelle, second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. All right. Clerk Treasurer's report. Clerk Buchanan.
We have no treasurer's report because we have no bank statements yet. I did want to say that the December financials are not quite done yet. I received the audit entries that I have to do. I received those today. And I just wanted to make a note of interest that in 2023, our interest revenue was $157,000 over what was budgeted. $157,000 more than what we budgeted.
That's twice your salary.
Yep.
That's some good financial workings.
Worked out good.
Thank you, Ms. Buchanan.
Thank you.
Okay. And then, again, anybody have any questions on Kim's report? 27 bullet items for January.
Crazy busy.
If not, resolution 2024-1.
A resolution updating chargeback rates for the town of East Troy. Whereas the town of East Troy has in place an ordinance permitting the town board to adjust on an annual basis chargeback rates to reflect the actual costs incurred by the town of East Troy in participating in public projects of other works where requested. Now therefore be it resolved by the town board of the town of East Troy, Walworth County, Wisconsin, that the following chargeback rate shall apply for the year 2024. DPW level 1, regular hourly rate $53.11. DPW level 1 overtime rate, $74.22. DPW level 2 regular rate, $48.79. DPW level 2 overtime rate, $67.69. DPW level 3 regular rate, $48.18. DPW level 3 overtime rate, $66.81. DPW level 4 regular hourly rate, $27.72. That's for part-time snowplow drivers. Admin level 1 regular rate, $50.10. Admin level 1 overtime rate, $69.68. Admin level 2 regular rate, $42.48. Admin level 2 overtime rate, $58.26. Admin level 3 regular rate, $27.80. Admin level 3 overtime rate, $41.69. This resolution ratifies the action of the town board at the, February town board meetings, such as these rates will apply for the entire calendar year 2024.
Okay. Motion to approve resolution 2024-1
As amended.
as amended, changing that February on the bottom.
I make a motion to approve resolution 2024-01 as amended.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Bill Wicker, second. Discussion?
Just curious, yeah, I see you did all the rates for the police charge as well, but is that a separate resolution?
We don't have to do a resolution for those, because those are only used for like their grant stuff, so it's
Okay.
different than, because these are like intergovernmental rent, so if we do work for the sanitary district, say if you're number 3 or 2,
Right,
then we charge back from those entities back to the town.
right. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, discussion? If not, a motion?
There
We
was
have-
a
Oh, I'm sorry, we have a motion and a second. No more discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of approving resolution 2024-1, a resolution updating chargeback rates for the town of East Troy. On the motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. All right. Before we start public comments, I have a statement to make here, relevant. Got two going this way. And four going that way. Sure, everybody's got it. If you noticed, I got a gavel here today, and in the packet, and I'll be discussing that during my report, why I have a gavel. But there's going to be some changes here, and they're as follows. The 4-minute per person public comment will be the only public input allowed per ordinance. That's what our ordinance says. I have been very lenient on this activity outside of the public comment period. Allowing this input has turned portions of the board meeting into total disruption. I have a responsibility to maintain order. Number 2, if speakers use profanity, are disrespectful, or use this period to abuse and attack board members, they will be ruled out of order and asked to leave. 3, there will be no discussion of town business with the board after meeting adjournment. If residents insist on verbally assaulting board members, they will be removed by the police department. And the reason for that is pretty obvious here. I'm trying to go home and I'm getting attacked here, assaulted basically. That can't happen, and it's not going to happen anymore, period. So that person will be ruled out of order, and the police department is aware of that. So with that, I did put a new battery in my public comments meter here. So I will reset it. And public comments, following the rules. Anyone?
Oh, okay.
Ken?
Kansas, West 598 Bell School Road. I would like to comment on agenda item 11A, ordinance 2024-2, amending section 10.10.010 1B, changing statutory speed on Rustic Road. On January 17th, I emailed this board, Wisconsin Department of Transportation Bulletin Number 21. a guide for setting speed limits on local roads. I hope you have had the opportunity to read through it. As elected officials, I believe it is your responsibility to educate yourselves about any given subject matter before determining what is best for the town of East Troy. Wisconsin Department of Transportation Bulletin 21 notes that engineering and traffic speed studies must be conducted in order to modify all speed limits on local roads. The speed data that was included in the January board meeting packet to help the board in their decision process was not an engineering traffic study. Chapter 10.10 of the Town of East Troy ordinances lists all the roads within the township that the statutory speed limit has been decreased by board action. The list is extensive. Additionally, the speed limit modification for East Shore Road, which is included in the ordinance, states the speed reduction found in this section is based upon a traffic engineering study showing a percentage of drivers exceeding the posted limit. Through an open records request, I have determined that the town of East Troy has no record of traffic engineering studies related to speed limit reductions within its boundaries. I have concluded through email correspondence with the Department of Transportation that the information in Bulletin 21 is accurate and factual. And at this time, I withdraw my support for decreasing the speed limit on any part of Rustic Road 126 until an engineering speed study determines a reasonable and prudent speed as required by Wisconsin state statutes. If and when a speed study is conducted, I will support whatever results a speed study recommends. It's up to you to decide if the information in Wisconsin Department of Transportation Bulletin 21 is factual and has merit. I hope the information I presented tonight is helpful in making your decision approving or not approving ordinance 2024-2, amending section 10.10.010 1B, changing statutory speed on Rustic Road. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Jim, I take it you'd probably address that during 11A. Yes. Okay. Public comments? Mr. Bond?
It'll be short. I just would like to see what can be done with the town board. Bernard L. Bond,
Thank you.
got the address? No.
Yes, please.
8634 Stringers Bridge Road.
Thank you.
I'd like the town to look into their own zoning. Let the attorney look into it, the board look into it. Other municipalities have done it. Bloomfield is, you know, that was mentioned last meeting. There's other places have the ETZ zoning, which is basically their outside territorial zoning like Elkhorn, Fontana, Williams Bay. And I'd like the town to look into having our own zoning taken away from county so we can get something straight. Thank you.
Thank you, Barney. Public comments? Mr. Jones?
Joe Jones, Miramar, you know the number, 90333. Yep. First off, I just want to thank the board from late last year for agreeing to put financial statements, and Kim, thanks for putting them in the packets. What I was looking for, I spent $23 to get 2 years worth of financial statements that should have been in the packets for the past 2 years. So it's a little frustrating. I've looked at January's and I've looked at February's, and January's provided November. This month is December 31st, but the detail is not in. And I thought we had agreed every quarter there would be the detail, right?
As I mentioned, the audit entries are not completed.
Oh,
For
okay.
December.
So December isn't done yet.
So it'll be in like next month's
Correct.
packet or whatever.
Definitely.
But I just wanted to bring it because I didn't want to wait to see it not be shown, and then that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Public comments? Public comments, anyone? Mr. Stoss?
Can I hand out a couple of handouts before you start the clock? NAD 31 Sternberg Ridge Road, John Stoss.
I'll stop it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Ready, Joe?
Go ahead.
All right, I'd like to speak on behalf of agenda item 11B, discussion only regarding the proposed shipping container ordinance. I gave out some handouts that I'd like to direct you to. One of the handouts is how this new proposed shipping container ordinance will affect the East Troy residents, all 4,000 plus of them. And the other one is a petition that I've been circulating and that I have several copies, page full, filled up, ready to go, which I will be turning in shortly before the next town board meeting when the town board plans on taking action on the proposed ordinance container. So right now, it's already well known, you get 2% of your overall square footage of your property. On a 5-acre lot, you get 3,650 square feet. If the new proposal goes through, you're going to be relegated to 200 square feet versus a shipping container. And it goes by parcel, not size of the lot, it's just flat parcel, period. I did an open records request to the town of East Troy. I spent $69 and some change to find out over the past 5 years how many complaints we've had in the town of East Troy regarding shipping containers. And when I got an open records request back, I found out that there was 0 complaints regarding shipping containers in our township over the last 5 years. So this brings me to the reason, why are we enacting an ordinance that we don't have any complaints or problems on? So I know that the only person that's been out to the Georgie property has been Attorney Mills. And obviously he's on the board, he's the town attorney. So what I'd like to do is I would just like to direct the board here to my tablet, and I'd like to show the layout of what's going on here. So this right here is St. Peter's Road. This right here is Stringer's Bridge Road. This back here is the 52 acres that Pete Acker owns behind us. And this property right here is the property that Barney Bong owns, and his house is right here. Now, there's 11 acres between this line here, lot line, and this one here. There's a 30-foot height difference between this property line here and this one right here. So basically, if you're standing down on this property here, you look up here, you can't see anything going on this property up here. The shipping containers on this property are right here. Okay, there's a heavy, about a 50-foot high tree line right here. There's a tree line back here. There's a tree line right here. The only person that could possibly see something is our neighbor to the south here, but you have to walk way up to the back corner of his lot. And there's also a heavy tree line right here. So if you're driving by or driving around the town and you're trying to visually see where these containers are, you basically can't see them. Now, if you're driving a drone, if you're flying a drone nearby, you will see the containers. So I want to bring up another picture here. Kind of the driving force behind a lot of this shipping container ordinance happens to be the gentleman sitting in the back of the room there. And here's a picture of the gentleman sitting in the back of the room with his camera right here in his hand. And then he's walking on our neighbor's 52 acres behind us, walking through the woods, taking pictures of a property that's 30 feet higher than the elevation of his property. So here's my question. Why are we going to enact a shipping container ordinance when you don't have a problem? Why are we going to come after 4,000 people when there is no problem? Why are we letting one person drive the bus to have a container ordinance that's going to fair to the rest of the 4,000 people what's going on here. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Certainly read what you presented here.
Pardon?
I'll certainly read what you
Oh,
presented here.
yeah, thank you.
Public comments? Anyone else?
Hi. W2294 West Bay Road.
What's your name again?
Name.
Joseph Johnner.
Okay, thank you.
Just wanted to take an opportunity to introduce myself. I'm running for town board supervisor. I believe in the role of government for the people, by the people, and striving for and starting at a local level with transparency. A lot of what's going on nationally at the federal level actually starts at the local level, I believe. And I do believe that I can help make it more transparent here. Thank you. I am a veteran. I served in the U.S. Army, IT information technology specialist, and I am an engineer at Allen Integrated Control Systems in East Troy. So, thank you.
Thank you, John. Hold on, let me reset.
Carla Georgie, North 8590 Stringers Bridge Road.
Thank you, Carmen.
Now, this is all my opinion and my perception, and it's about the proposed container ordinance. My perception was that Chief Gurecki asked to have current ordinances looked at for deficiencies, which the board approved Attorney Mills to do that. In my opinion, he was not approved to set new ordinances. This is why we need a written comprehensive plan to set new ordinances into law. There is a difference with updating current ordinances and having a new ordinance done. My observation with other ordinances was, for example, the ATV was brought up at an annual meeting, discussed at a board meeting, approved after the discussion for an ordinance to be drafted, discussed and then voted on. Drone ordinance, brought up at a meeting by a elector, discussed and dropped. No approval on drafting an ordinance. Container ordinance, again, in my opinion, current ordinances approved to be looked at and a new potential ordinance should have been discussed separately and then approved or not approved to move forward. An old existing ordinance is totally different than a new proposed ordinance. Because the separation was not done, there was no discussion on it. It was written and given to the board with 4 days to look at. It was brought up for a possible vote that same day. In my opinion, because of the ordinance being written first with no discussion, caused a lot of backpedaling and total confusion. Second of all, I just want to hand this out. This is another thing I was looking at through an open book, open reference request. Oop, I don't have one for me. Okay. So this was done with my curiosity on employee codes of conduct. During the, from an open record request, I found out there is no employee manual. The Village of East Troy has one and McGuanago has one. I'm sharing with the board an example of a code of ethics done by another township that the board should consider. There is a code of ethics with the town currently, but in my opinion, there are deficiencies. I highlighted some important facts with code of ethics that I think should also be considered to be added. Just for example, town council members should treat other council members and the public with respect and should honor the opinions of others, even with the council members when they disagree with others' opinions. Town council members should respect and comply with the law and should conduct themselves at all times in a manner that promotes public confidence in the integrity of the office of the town council and the town government. In other words, town council members should be held at higher standards, even if they're considered private citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I think almost everybody spoke. One more back there. Come on up. Name and address, please.
Yes, Brad Beaumont, W1308 Beulah Lane Road. I moved here in the end of 2013. In the first 6-7 years, barely ever lost power. Now this last year, this winter was just brutal. I understand We Energies was just busy. However, in the years leading up, I've had my power go out just a few times, just for a couple days at a time. My reason for coming to this meeting is to ask if there's been any conversation to clear the trees from the roads, from the lines, at least enough to the point where we don't have branches hanging over the power lines. And I'm not sure how that works with We Energies. If I mean, I saw Splundy was down here when we had that snowstorm, and they were busy too. And again, that one was, I understood, that was a big deal. However, this last summer, our power was out for, I think, 5 days. So whatever we can do, if any possibility to just, I mean, maybe on some people's properties, but at least we can walk around and do some updates. Now, I've worked with We Energies myself. I'm a maintenance manager for a molding facility, and sometimes they'll help. They'll come out and they'll clean lines. So that's just all I've got right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Todd, would you like to add any comments about your coordination with the power companies? I know at times you got to call them, right?
Yeah, I know where he's talking, I know where he lives. We've asked year after year after year for this section of Beulah Lane Road to get trimmed, and they say there's no need to. Call them again, there's no need to. Because it's hanging over power lines, it's We Energies' responsibility to clear the power line. But I don't know why they don't want to come out and clear it. I mean, obviously there's a need for it. Just like down from Bart's house, they've been called many different roads. They've been called on to come and trim it.
Right.
I know they contract with Asplin to do it, and they do certain parts of the state, certain times of the year. It can't be everywhere at once. But why just one section that I called the last 3 years in a row on there?
Okay. My experience with the power companies is the larger lines, the 138 kV and up, they're all over that. Okay. But anything below that, it's almost they do not come out unless there's a problem. And that's not very proactive, because there's obviously you can go look and you can see that's going to be a problem. Or that's, you can see that. So, all right. Okay. Any other public comments? Anyone? All right, we're going to move on here. Good input. Thank you. Chairman's report. I had 3 meetings since the last town board meeting. On January 16th, the Tri-Troy group got together and we focused a lot on fire and emergency services. We called in the fire chiefs and their assistants to have a honest discussion on how we could coordinate our activities better between all of our departments. It was very productive, and there is action going on there actually on the county level and state level also. On January 18th, the Tri-County meeting was held in Waterford, and the big speaker there was, believe it or not, solar farms. Not talking about these big old monster ones, but the ones that are in that 5 to 40 acres. And it's already becoming an issue in Racine and Kenosha counties. Okay. So that's another place where we're going to maybe have to look at ordinances, because if we have nothing, we will have nothing to say about it. Okay. And there are model ordinances out there also. So that's another one that's really kind of on a just keep it in mind type deal. We may have to do something there. And then on this last Saturday, Barb, Kim, and I were at the Towns Association district meeting. we had our board review training, but we also had some great input on the 6 to 24 inch, 60 to 20 foot diameter culvert small bridge inventory. We'll have to act on that next month, as well as revenue. And that's where Kim was really paying attention hard. I seen sweat beads on her head when you were
More
talking.
work.
Yeah, more work, but quite potentially more revenue for us. And the town association is really digging in on this because they got the first part done, which really opened the eyes of the legislature statewide, saying, you know, towns, you really been in the caboose on this all along. It's getting better, but we know there's more work to do. And the last thing I put into the agenda or in the packet, you'll notice there was a 2-page there called meeting protocol. And put it in there just to show that, you know, there's statute references here as well as, you know, from the book, which you normally see mostly come to a head at annual meetings because usually that's a bigger crowd and then like we typically have at a board meeting. But there's 2 things I'd like to call your attention to. One of them where they said we should invest in a gavel, and I did. This is actually the judge's, and he was nice enough to let us use this. But the last item says, how can a board address members of the public who speak out of order during meetings? Here's what they say, and this is from the Town Association. Since the chairperson presides over meetings, it is this person who plays a crucial role in ensuring that order is maintained during the meeting. Meetings are meant to allow a board to fulfill its responsibilities, authority, and powers and duties vested in it. While the open meeting law gives members of the public the opportunity to attend and observe meetings, it does not give the public the ability to interrupt or disrupt them. Hence, the WTA recommends the following protocol for someone who may not fully understand this concept. I'll read them. Number 1, vest in the gavel. Someone speaks out of turn, out of order, or is threatening another using inappropriate or disparaging words. The chair should use the gavel to get their attention. Next, inform them that they are speaking out of turn and ask them to stop. If you have a public comment section, ask them to refrain from speaking until that agenda item is reached. We have that. If they rise up or are standing, ask them to be seated. If they do not comply with these requests, ask them to leave the meeting. If they fail to leave the meeting, provide a warning that law enforcement will be contacted. If they fail to heed this warning, contact the Sheriff's Office, Police Department, have them removed. You'll note that, and people do usually do the research during the annual meetings where when that happens, person's told he's out of order, and then he's given, in effect, 3 disorderly conduct warnings, 1, 2, 3. They can be within 3 seconds. And the third one is they get a disorderly conduct citation and are removed from the building. And like I said, I've been running meetings for 30 years, never had one, never needed one. Apparently I need one now. So anyway, it's in the, it was in the packet, so you can read it verbatim. I won't go any further on that. Okay, with that, the media IT report, Web Administrator Olson.
Hello there. I just want to start, I watched last month's meeting and I noted that again, we discussed the communications committee. And I just want to put it out there and find out what I'm not doing that was on that list that we keep bringing it up as though I'm missing something, because I'm feeling like I'm not completing my job tasks like I should because it keeps coming up and it keeps being a discussion. And when I'm looking at the numbers and I'm looking at everything the other way, I'm feeling as though those are representing that we're meeting all the lines that we were supposed to meet. So it kind of makes it uncomfortable when every time I'm not here, I'm hearing about the communication committee did this or that. And then I've already done that. I've already done the things. There are reasons that I do the things the way I do. So I just want to double check that I'm not missing any marks here.
Okay. My
Because I do
view,
wanna
no.
perform. It was simply in relation to the request for articles for the newsletter, which the comment was in the past, the communications committee drafted the newsletter and all the articles in it, and we had a list of ideas for future articles. was simply a reference to that.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I'm not missing anything, because I really want to make sure that we're moving forward.
Okay, anybody
Okay.
else? Anything? Okay,
All right, so the website's currently up to 345 subscribers. Each one of them are receiving text messages or emails, whichever they choose, of agendas, packets, news, and notices, including the newsletters on the day of publication. So if they select to get the virtual rather than the other, they automatically get that emailed to them, and it's not an extra step, which really saves a lot of time. The YouTube feed is currently from 29 to 32 subscribers and has 43 live streams to be watched. The Facebook, as of January 25th, we gained 60 new followers. As of today, we actually have 80. So we've really got a big boom in Facebook, and we're trying to keep that going. So we're at 995 followers today. The spring newsletter is something I'm going to have to start very quickly. As we talked about last month, financially, we have to look at staying within a budget of around $5,000. As stated in my report, a one-page front and back newsletter biannually, because of the postage cost, would be $2,996.04. A two-page front and back bigger newsletter like we did last time, because we're paying for postage once, would be $1,529.83. So the annual mailing would save postage by mailing it once, by mailing it twice. You know, if we cut down a little bit on the paper, we can still kind of get in the number. So I'm just asking for the board today to approve one or the other so that I can start drafting the format so that we can get moving on that and make sure it's ready in time.
after your discussion with Kim on what other expenses come out of that 5,000, what is the real number that you have to meet to stay within your budget?
I'm thinking we have to stay around. I don't think that we can exceed the 2,900,
Okay, so we're thinking a
right?
a biannual, one-page front and back is what your recommendation is then?
That's my thought, is that we're gonna be able to have more content and reach those people. And I would say the annual probably makes the most sense, because we're gonna reach people in December with the newsletter that goes with the tax bill. And then we'll be able to have a bigger newsletter with more content in the spring, which would be kind of hitting those two marks.
So the two at the 1,500 is basically $3,060 is what you're saying. Doing two-page front and back annual, but that's only, but you're calling it an annual, but you could do that one twice, a two-page front and back. Correct?
If we did a two-page front and back twice, that would well exceed the 2,900, because you have to add the paper.
Okay,
So you're multiplying that.
okay. So the recommendation is,
I would like to think that a two-page annual newsletter, which is in addition to what gets sent out during tax time, would hit all of the marks. I know that we can post articles on the Facebook or on the website and blast information that way.
And my intent is to try to do a building connections kind of promotion to get neighbors to tell neighbors to go ahead and start subscribing and let them know that it's out there, and see if we can get a boom way and get more subscribers, so that hopefully we can get a couple more people on the virtual and really push that. But it's going to be hard to reach that demographic without some kind of face-to-face conversation.
okay. So I guess I'll come back to it then. The real recommendation to stay within that 3,000 is the one-page front and back newsletter biannually. That is the recommendation. That's what I'm hearing.
That's not what Barb
That's not
recommended.
I
Okay,
recommended
go
the
ahead then.
annual.
The second one.
Because you
Utilizing
would be
tax
getting
time.
3 newsletters, one sent out with the tax bills, and then 1 2-page that is sent out probably after election time, so that we could identify how the board has changed or what information is most important somewhere around May, June. And then, so you're doing it every 6 months.
Okay. That
And
makes sense.
that is actually a more cost-effective process, from what I read.
Okay,
Because all of our money is really going to postage.
Yep.
That's the hard part, and it
That's-
keeps increasing. So
okay.
where we got more people to subscribe and not get the paper copy, we lost it in postage. So it's kind of a give and take.
It's always good to save money. That is one good way, and especially with the point of the tax bill, with another part of a newsletter in with that. I think you can get a lot of information. I think, and even in the past, the most information is in the spring before summer starts. Like you can get the whole summer schedules, recycling. I mean, you can get a lot of different things on there. So I could understand it. I'll make a motion if that's what you're looking for.
Question.
And I don't know, Jen and I haven't chatted about this, but also if we did, it has been talked about in the past about having an online newsletter. If that were ever to come to fruition, that could be noted in the other newsletters. Look for this, and if you would like a hard copy, come to the town hall and one will be provided to you potentially. If that's a route, Jen has put in the most thought to the newsletter, but if that's a route that we wanted to take for a little tidbit in the fall of maybe some fall events that we weren't aware of in the spring newsletter.
Yeah, that's what
But
I,
it's gonna always be published.
that was my question to
As news
Jen,
and notices.
because in our last newsletter, we've had the section about if you want to get it electronically instead of in writing, and she said unfortunately it was less than 10 people that responded to that. And if you look at our website, we have 345 subscribers. That's less than a tenth of our population, and they may not necessarily all be town residents. If you look at the Facebook, we're at about 1,000, so that's about 25% of our population. I don't think we're getting, that's not the majority yet.
Right.
Electronically. The communications committee suggestion was twice a year. I talked with Jen maybe even before we send out this newsletter, this next newsletter. We put something both on Facebook and on the website saying, hey, the newsletter's coming. If you prefer to get electronically, click here to see if we get, but I'm just concerned that it's not, if you look at the big picture, it's still not the majority of the people that we're reaching electronically. And maybe
We're
it's that they're
definitely missing
not,
that demographic.
maybe they're not, they don't have to be subscribers to be seeing it or.
Right, because you can
hearing it.
definitely look at it and just not subscribe, and I'm sure we have a group doing.
So I think that that's why the communications committee was doing it twice a year, and we could do the one page twice a year.
Bill?
I certainly think I'll be supporting Chad's 2-page front and back annual, in addition to the tax newsletter. The low-hanging fruit continues to be the website. And with a campaign to have to tell your neighbor, to have your neighbor sign up, we could grow from 10% to 25 to 30%. So let's give it a year. Let's revisit how we do this next year at this time.
Or budget time.
I think that's a great idea to discuss it then.
Within a calendar year.
All right, I guess we're ready for a motion. Who's making one?
I thought Jen.
Well, you started.
I'll make a motion for the 2-page front and back annual newsletter to go out in the spring after the election.
Second.
All right, discussion.
But in that motion doesn't specifically say there'll be one going out in the tax letter, but there will be one.
That Kim does annually, so that wouldn't be a part of this one, but yes.
Okay, other discussion?
But it would be more than just what Kim does, right?
An extra page costs extra money.
So then it's really just, the one that Kim does talks about the dog license and
Well,
the timing.
the top of the back has all like pertinent phone numbers, dates of
Right.
elections, dates of the annual meeting, planning commission, town board meeting dates.
So it's not really a newsletter content.
It's more
The-
like the
it's
fact-based, what you're
information,
looking
right.
for.
Right.
For the next year.
Of course. And we put it on a colored piece of paper, so it's different from the textbook. But
Good.
I would say 50% of people don't even look at it, just like 50%.
They call you
of people
anyway?
Don't look at the
It's
newsletter
on my
that comes in the
fridge.
mail. Thank you.
All year.
Okay, any more discussion? If not, on the motion, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
One nay. Motion carries.
Who was the second?
Barb Church.
Okay, thanks.
Chad Boss made the motion, Barb Church seconded it.
Okay, thank you.
I'll have a draft for you next meeting.
Very good. All right, Department of Public Works, Superintendent Shield.
This month. January was quite busy with finally getting winter. Everybody got any questions on, I hand it out to you?
Just two questions on the data points, because I don't know. And so the first is, you've mentioned diesel fuel, 1,086 gallons. What's the context of that? Is that a lot? Is that not much?
Quite a bit
Quite a bit.
in 30 days.
Like budget problem?
No, it's just stating a fact that this is where budget money goes towards. Is cost of fuel is in there.
The second question I get is the data point on, so 370 tons of salt. That's 750,000 pounds.
I do a contract with the state every year for 900 tons for the entire year.
Ah,
And that's what we used in January alone. Over a third of what we contracted for
Good thing it was
900 tons a year,
a year,
and you use 370 in January.
Let ice.
Yeah, we had the 2 days of ice with that freezing rain. I mean, even the brine doesn't do any good.
Yep.
It just
And
dilutes
isn't
it.
it gonna be 50 tomorrow?
Yeah.
55 on Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, saving grace now, February's been pretty mild. December was pretty mild.
You're standing at wood. Please knock on it. Thank you.
So, we did get a lot of comments from the bad snowstorm that we had on how our roads look so much better. We stayed out a little bit later. Our underbody scrapers on our trucks make a world of difference. And that's also why the actual salt tonnage is down per mile that we use.
Any other questions?
Is that something extra or different that you do on your trucks than other trucks do?
Yes. Yeah, on the 3 big trucks that do the main roads, we have underbody scrapers. We can put 500 pounds of pressure down. That helps peel all that hard pack up with a little bit of salt that just softens it up and peels it right up. Compared to, I'm sure everybody's seen a lot of the county roads and neighboring townships where you drove over it because that stuff was so much moisture content. It packed and it froze instantly, and it took them weeks to get some of theirs up.
I called you to complain because I wanted bad roads. My youngest just started driving to practice, and I'm like, pull out of the driveway, and I'm like, what the heck is going on here? But no, it was compliments to you guys. You guys did a great job.
Yeah, that Saturday was challenging. Been here 20 some years. Worst snowstorm I've had to do.
That's
I mean, I'll take the wind and the drifting because that a lot of times the roads are clear versus what we had packed down and trees down and
yeah, lots of trees.
Yep.
Lots of trees.
Yeah, that's the spring cleanup's going to be quite extensive
For everybody.
for everybody. No.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Todd.
Thank you.
Keep it up. All right, police report. Chief is at the Chiefs Conference, so Mr. Rungy has got the helm.
So just a little bit of information, looks like January, 957 calls for service. Approximately 1.27 calls an hour for the officers, so they're, again, staying busy. 75 citations in January, which is up about 15 from the previous year. And then we also do participate in state traffic grants. And this past weekend, I believe officers signed up for 4 grants. So between Friday and Sunday, we had 36 citations based on normal patrol plus those grants. So they were very busy this weekend and did a good job. The other thing I had is, again, kudos to Todd for in January, the snowfalls and rain and everything else. We had only a couple runoffs due to weather related incidents, as in one was on a county highway So we had almost no runoffs, and throughout the entire county, there was a lot. So
Wow.
All right, and the listed agenda was the resident awareness program sample form. I think it's, well, first of all, we have both sides shown here now in our pack, so it shows, the sign off there, as far as HIPAA, et cetera. Was there anything that the chief wanted to bring up about this, or he's good with what we had so far?
yeah, no, we worked with Jean. She did a great job. And thank you, Barb, for bringing up the program. It'll work really good we can enter that into the computer system. When we get dispatched to that address, that information will pop up for us. So if there's a medical emergency and they have a lockbox, we can get that number. If they're, an individual might have dementia or something like that, it helps us be aware of that prior to the incident. So.
Okay.
It allows for faster response when they're on scene if they know what might be presenting at the scene.
Absolutely.
Second page, the last bolded paragraph, there's an extra T at the end of the second
Thank you.
sentence.
And HIPAA is actually HIPAA.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I like hippopotamus.
On page 1, emergency contacts, we list a name and a birthday, but do you want contact information? So if you're gonna call a son or daughter or the neighbor, do you want?
Yeah, we
a
should
phone
add
number?
a telephone number in
Yeah,
that
phone
section.
number.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yes. Thank you.
Is there a reason we would want the date of birth?
So if we, for some reason, that the phone number is no longer in service, something like that, we can look in our database and pull up records file, a name file. I've updated their phone number with another jurisdiction, something like that. We can get that. So if I'm looking up Michael Smith, there could be 30 of them in the county. This lets me know that I have the correct one.
Okay. Would the board prefer to, this is voluntary, so the board can approve this today, or we can say, make these changes we just did and bring her back in March? What do you prefer?
With your work with the Emergency Services District, do you know of other communities that are using this and how many residents actually participate?
This is a program that I'm more familiar with out of Johnsburg, Illinois. And I think they have greater than 50% who participate.
Really?
More of the older people. It's really pushed heavily down there. Because a lot of it is an older community, which we are becoming a more older community. And so, it helps to, for the EMS or the police, if there is information that helps them better prepare for what they might come into the premise with.
Oh, I absolutely understand the intent. I just, in this day and age, I don't know how much people are willing to share.
Well, again, it's voluntary.
Information.
I think the more
Exactly.
information the police department has, the better.
Well, and I think that people who have greater needs are more likely to participate in this program. The older you are, there might be a greater need for keeping track of, numbers, because if people start having forgetfulness due to something, they can help. My mom just locked herself out. If I hadn't put a lockbox up, she would have been calling the police or the fire to break down the door because she had locked her keys in the house. This is an example of.
Oh, sure.
The communication center does already enter some of this information in for some individuals, but it is strictly right now word of mouth, us telling them, hey, just so you know, you can call the Barth County Communications Center, give them this information. That way we have it next time we come. And this is just an easier form. They can fill it out, give it to us, and then we can get that information.
Chief Gurecki talked about an event that he went to last summer where he said, boy, I would have liked a heads up knowing that there was a larger, more aggressive dog that I was going to have to deal with before I could get to a caller. And those are the sort of things that you can put on this, dog is friendly, dog needs to be distracted, whatever.
It might be helpful in the opening paragraph to maybe just put, like, you're not required to fill all fields or something like that. If there, at least some information is better than none for some situations, it might be helpful to.
Yeah, that may, some people may say, I'd sign this except for
The
this.
date of birth.
If you say that, then they can pick and choose.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, I'll go back to the same question. Would you like to see a redraft of this next month, or would you like to approve it now with the changes that we just brought up?
I'll make a motion that we move forward with the resident awareness program with the changes that were discussed tonight.
Second.
All right, Barb, second. Discussion. Mr.
Just a
Wicker.
question for Mr. Mills. In the page 1, under resident awareness program, last sentence, that these the information may no longer be protected by federal privacy laws. Should we include state or county or local? Is there any need?
I don't think so in light of the waiver on the bottom of page 2.
Okay.
Any information you guys see between you and the fire department that can get it, it's gonna be helpful, and it says right there, voluntary, so I think if any information you get, it's gonna be better than.
Wallward County had started something, but it's never really gotten off the ground. And I thought maybe if we started a more local attack at it, we would have better success.
Now we can throw it in the newsletter. There we go.
True. Roll it up.
Who does the data entry? Actually does it?
That's what I'm gonna address. So 2 things. First thing is on the second page, the larger paragraph where it's got the great premise alert program. That's from the draft that we took from another municipality. We don't have that. That's not determined yet if it's going to be entered by us or by Walworth County. So that obviously will be updated in the final draft. The other thing with regard to what Supervisor Reyes said, I don't necessarily think that that is something we need to put in there, only because people are gonna leave blanks if they don't wanna fill it out. It doesn't mean we're not gonna put what information we receive in, you know what I mean? That I think if we open that Pandora's box of saying, you don't have to tell us all of this, we'll get more information than.
We'd get less.
Right, if we put that in, we'll get less than if we leave it and they leave a blank.
Okay. All right.
I would have thought you got more responses by putting that in. Maybe not more content, but more responses was my thought.
Okay.
More residents would be willing.
All right. All right. Well, we still have the motion on the floor to go ahead with this with the changes. I think before it gets rolled out, there's still going to be a little bit of a time lag here, I would think. So on the motion to approve this, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
To get additional discussion.
Shall, no. Okay. And I think we're going to end up, we probably will. Okay. You're good?
Yeah.
Nothing else to add? All right. Thank you very much. All right. East Troy Area Emergency Service District Report, Supervisor Church.
I have a report in the packet. The only thing I would add is we did not exceed the number of calls in 2022 for 2 primary reasons.
23.
The Alpine Valley had only 2 concerts on their concert schedule, so that was very limiting. And the other thing was the weather did not offer Alpine Ski Hill as much participation. So those were the 2 main reasons we saw the numbers not exceed. I will tell you that this past January exceeded every month we've ever had.
Okay. All right. Is that it?
Yep.
All right. Thank you. Park Committee report, Supervisor Reyes.
Nothing this month. Still following up. Hope to have an update next month on the equipment for this year.
What do we have so far in your hands? What do you have?
Still just the 2. So following up with other options.
So you've asked them, you just haven't received it yet? Okay.
And just confirmed with Todd tonight, that they'll take care of removing the existing, because that was some of the questions that came back, removal as well of the existing equipment. And I think we will assume that we can't afford like that rubber turf this year, that would be down the road as well. So I'll get a quote, but I think it's pretty expensive.
All right, any other questions for Michelle? on this?
Do we install these or does the bid include installation?
They would install it.
All right, thank you very much. All right, Boots Lake Memorial Park report, Supervisor Wales.
Yeah, so obviously we didn't have any ice skating rinks this year. No frost. It wasn't, we'd have big floating ice if we had any.
They have it in Waterford. They must have generators.
Or, yeah, they must have or something, because yeah, you need the frost underneath it. Otherwise the ice, the bottom ice will
Bubbles.
never, it'll never freeze, you know, but, unfortunate, but we also, our lottery is coming up the 21st, I believe is our meeting, of this month for all of the pavilions and, the uppers and lowers, and then, that was it.
Pontoon.
Oh, and the boat, yes, the boat, and we have a few extra boat slips for pontoons this year because we're readjusting the one of the piers. So that'll be at the Town of Troy Town Hall on 21st at 6:30. And another issue that, not an issue, but it was brought up at our last meeting was we're looking at doing a generator, a whole house generator for the park. With these power outages and such, we have a lot of stock like pizzas and ice cream and, you know, that they sell there. And there's a lot of money sitting there with freezers and such. And even with the park not being open year round, the supervisors there vacation in the winter. So we're looking at doing, talking with all three of the communities to be able to split for a capital expense for that generator purchase, which came to, the quote was $13,889.19 because it's a capital expense. So that's typically in our bylaws and whatnot is we usually anything a capital expense, the municipalities would pay for that. It's not actually into our operating costs. So I'm actually looking to get approval for that because this next meeting, we're having a discussion to be able to put together a resolution and get that passed. For the
All right, as a point of discussion, I did get the call from John Kendall about this. And I told him that, you know, we did hear from you a couple times during the year that they were discussing it and, you know, really should have put that in the budget so everybody knows about it. But I think it is a worthwhile deal. And I also think it's a great place to spend $4,000 or $5,000 of our ARPA money. You know, I can't think of a better public purpose, especially this being a public park. So I think we should do it. I don't see any reason why we shouldn't do it, but that's my view on it. What is everybody think? Kim?
Since I did the 2024 budget for Booth Lake Memorial Park, money was put into the budget for the generator.
How come they're asking then?
It's an operating fund and it should have been a capital expense is what the discussion was at the meeting last month.
So would that decrease what the quarter or the town's payment will be to the park?
That I somewhat asked that question and I didn't really get an answer, but I can definitely bring it back.
Because I just got the letter asking for the $36,000 some dollar payment.
The regular payment?
Yes,
Okay.
Which
And, but
is-
you think it already was in the budget?
it was in the budget.
Okay, you're gonna have to discuss that at the next meeting then, and I guess bring it back to us.
How would,
Otherwise, we're paying twice.
well, that's,
Exactly.
no, I understand that, but instead, even at that, to utilize ARPA money and take the regular money, back out of the budget, or you take it out, right? Because if this is a capital expense, it shouldn't be, what I'm understanding, it shouldn't be in our regular operations because the municipalities, that's a separate,
Correct.
it's a separate charge. So really, if it's there, I guess
Then it should
that's,
come out of our regular payment to the park. what we budgeted for.
But what Joe's saying, would we be better off, okay, take that off the payment and use ARPA funds? Is that a better route to go that we're not borrowing it? Does it, you know what I'm saying? I just
It-
want to
yeah,
know what's
it's-
best for the town is what I
Right.
want to do. So.
And we already budgeted for it, so
Well,
it's already there. So it
if-
doesn't matter. I mean, the ARPA money, we're
That-
down to
that was-
$22,000 worth of ARPA money anyway.
I was told it wasn't in the budget, so what I'm hearing now, it is in the budget. If it is in the budget, go ahead.
Is it in
Take care
Booth
of it.
Lake's budget or is it in?
It was in the Booth Lakes budget,
Okay.
and it was parceled out to the 3 municipalities to contribute, all 3 of us, towards that generator.
Okay.
And Chad has a point, because it was, should have been a separate capital expenditure item, but it was built into the budget.
Correct, and I
So
think
they
some
just
of
have to
that,
amend their budget?
and some of that, if I remember correctly, was because of all of the giant capital expenses that we did all last year. That we had no choice to have to be done. So that's where, we were including what we've borrowed and then trying to pay back. Plus the generator was in that each municipalities, I think it was a round number, wasn't it? Like, I'll have to look back.
Okay, what I'm hearing,
It was like $5,000, I mean, for
roughly.
the town and the village, and then, so.
Okay.
Right.
I will have discussion on that. So if it's in the budget, it doesn't matter. Doesn't
We've
matter.
already budgeted for it. It's, and then if you have to approve it separately
Mhm.
as a capital, that's fine. But
I believe that's the route
gonna
they wanna
spend
go.
another 5,000
No,
in
no.
charge of, on top of the 36,000 we're already giving.
Correct. I would just thought, and
And then we don't
lack
even
of me,
have,
but is it better to use
We
ARPA
don't-
and save off of
we
our
don't even
end?
have to touch the ARPA.
Well, no, if it's in the budget, it's in the budget. That
Yeah.
question is asked and answered. So, okay, we should be good. Anything else on the park?
Not at the moment.
Okay. All right, Lake Beulah Management District Report, Representative Thomas.
Good evening. In regards to the Lake Beulah Hotel, the Walworth County Zoning Agency met January 18th and discussed the hotel proposal for the Lindy's site. The agency spent about 50 minutes discussing the court case, the development, and how to proceed. The zoning agency passed a motion to have the county zoning staff prepare an updated decision to the conditional use permit. This decision will likely be to approve with conditions. The discussion did center upon what some of those conditions might be, and the zoning agency considered conditions submitted by the Lake Beulah Management District through our attorney. Basically, 2 items, the condition of the well and the use of holding tanks for the hotel. The county will likely next consider the hotel application at the February meeting, which should be February 15th, next Thursday. Tonight, I submitted a packet for tonight's meeting, and in that packet were 3 separate analyses done by each of the court case participants, the management district, the developer, and the county. I also included in that packet, there was a preliminary review of the project before it started, before they applied for the conditional use. And the county listed a page and a half of conditions of approval in that packet. So that was also included in the packet for tonight. In regards to the dredging at W19 Little Road, we have understood that a public hearing has been scheduled with the DNR for April 22nd. That ends my report for tonight.
All right, thank you. Okay, DNR. Okay, recycling committee report, Mr.
Nothing
Murphy.
to report tonight.
Library report.
Yes, some comments from the meeting, library public, the East Troy Alliance Public Library meeting on January 9th, 2024. The Strategic Planning Committee is asking for community input. This is the most important step in their planning process. A community survey is available for citizen completion from February 1st to February 14th, 2024. Flyers are being placed in handsome grocery bags that include a QR code that takes smartphone users directly to the online survey. There is a link in the library's website as well as on the library Facebook page. Printed copies are available in the East Troy Intergenerational Community Center and the East Troy Public Library. The survey consists of 20 questions. And the East Troy Library encourages everyone, library users and non-users, to give them their input. Thank you.
All right.
When does that input due?
That's 14th February.
Okay.
That's the last day they're collecting it.
Little update on the joint library agreement. The three Troy communities requested that the county administrator could take the next step and start looking at how we could change the law to allow this to happen. He has met with legislators already. He got approved by the county board to spend that money for us, which was great. But they're having a little issue about when would be the time they could present and write that bill. Sounds to me like after April is what they were saying. Again, we don't want to have the county as a pass-through for our funds from this town to go to the county. We want to go directly to the library that we're supporting. So more information on that coming up. So, thank you. Planning Commission report, anything, Bill?
There's no report.
All right. Unfinished business, we have enough regular business. I don't think there is any. New business, attorney's report, Attorney Mills.
First item in the packet is changing the speed on the Rustic Road. Mr. Zest did mention the handout from the DOT. I have always used that in the past when preparing a speed reduction. This one is a little different. There is an administrative code involved regarding rustic roads. And it says that we need approvals if we're increasing the speed, not decreasing. I spoke to the chief because he had indicated he spoke to, I don't know if it was a regional officer of the DOT regarding this plan. And I don't know if the discussion was started by the chief regarding some of the topography in the area. And he was told that or it was reported to me that he was told that some of the topographical, geographical issues in that area could be used as a basis to change the speed. So,
Specifically the width of the road, right? The narrow.
well,
of the road.
once the chief told me that and said that the road narrows in that area and it's hard for two vehicles to pass, I asked him to go out and take measurements because I wanted to include the measurements in the draft ordinance. If that's being used to make the change, I wanted it stated in the ordinance. This is why we're doing this. So I did not speak with the DOT guy myself, but it sounds as though there is authority here, and the Rustic Road Administrative Code only speaks to increasing speeds, not decreasing. So I don't know if you'd have questions of the chief as to what his discussion was.
I did have a discussion with the chief, and he said that, not ordered by any of us, he made the call to the guy at Waukesha, at Barstow, that has the authority for these matters, and he discussed this entire issue on this. He said, "You're good. Go." That's his quote. He's the guy in charge of it. They did talk about driveways. They talked about pavement widths. They talked about speeds and speed limits and being a rustic road. And the guy says, "You're good." That's from the chief. That's what he said. So he's saying we're good to go. That's what he's saying.
But if Jim would like the dimensions of the road.
They're in here.
It's listed.
Okay,
It's in the language.
I asked him to get those before I drafted this.
got it.
And we got 126 on there too. So.
I wasn't sure if you were saying they needed to still change or.
No.
Okay.
So here's what was drafted. Ordinance number 2024-2. It's an ordinance amending section 10.10.010 sub 1B, changing statutory speed limit on Rustic Road. The town board of the town of East Troy, Walworth County, Wisconsin, does hereby ordain as follows. One, that section 10.10.010 sub 1 sub B is amended to add the following speed restriction. All of this is italicized in new language. From the quote fixed limits unquote as specified by the provisions of Wisconsin statute section 346.57 and Wisconsin Administrative Code trans-RR-1.14 sub 1 to 35 miles per hour on rural Rustic Road 126 from Stone School Road to Hillborn Mill Road. Said speed reduction is to promote the health, safety, and general welfare of town residents by reducing the speed on this narrowed portion of the road that makes it difficult for two full-size vehicles from passing each other at the same time. The width of the paved portion of Bell School Road as part of Rustic Road 126 prior to Stone School Road is 22 feet. The width of Bell School Road is part of Rustic Road 126 in the section between Stone School Road and Hillborn Mill Road, where the speed limit is being decreased, is only 16.5 feet. 2, all italicized language is new. Any section of this ordinance not modified by italicized language or identified for deletion remains unchanged. 3, this ordinance shall become effective upon its passage and publication as provided by law, dated this 5th day of February.
All right. Motion to start discussion.
Or waive second reading.
Motion to waive the second reading
Okay.
of ordinance.
Motion by Michelle, second by Chad to waive the second reading. On the motion, all fair say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None, motion carries. Okay. Motion to approve ordinance 2024-2. We have a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance number 2024-2 and ordinance amending section 10.10.010 sub 1B, changing statutory speed limit on Rustic Road.
All right. Do we have a second? I'll second the motion. Discussion. Any
One
discussion?
question. We will request to consider engineering studies or speed studies. Are we going to ignore that request?
That request has been discussed with the chief and the state, and the study per se, if you're looking at it, the definition is not a study, an engineering study, unless you're doing something outside the realms of the warrants. That the chief got directly from them. So, like I said, he said we're good to go. He said in effect what he provided to them was the justification for the study and the study. It is a study. That's what he said. So again, if you look for a definition of it, you're not going to find one. You know. So
I think the study that was done showed the average speed was like 42.
that was a speed study, which is part of the
Yeah.
rest of it. Information. You have all the information total. So, and again, this was a request that was made, not, it was made to us. We the board didn't bring this on ourselves. This is a request. And the first motion to reduce all of it, that certainly didn't meet the warrants, and that was defeated. And then a motion to approve this portion of it, and to at least authorize Attorney Mills to draft the ordinance, that was passed also. So that's why we're sitting here. So,
Is there do we have any idea what would a study like that cost?
well,
I
again,
mean, if
you're gonna
let's
define-
just say a ballpark, is it 10 grand? Is it 5 grand? Is it
The chief said between $7,500 and $10,000.
yeah,
$10,000?
for a full blown one where you
Sure.
have to justify the changes to override what the warrants and
Yep.
the statute say.
Okay.
And of course, you'd never be able to find the information on the part we denied. You certainly would find the information on this one, or close enough.
Well, that was my one question when I was reading about it, and I did read Mr. Zess's emails and such as, well, then let's not do anything at all. Like,
Well, yeah,
I mean,
that's-
for 10 grand, then leave it as it is, and, you know. But
The information.
But I think-
chief
if
got.
they think what the chief has is good, I mean.
That's what the chief got. And you did talk to him, you said.
I talked to the chief, not to the
Right,
DOT.
right. And the chief, that's his call. And that's what it's been for forever. It's that part of it, that's the chief. Okay. And I don't believe we ever had one that I know of where we had to override what the state warrants were. Then you do need to hire a consulting engineering firm with traffic engineers that do a detailed analysis of step by step, every one of those warrants. Okay. And he was told it's not needed for this. That's what he was told.
Because it's a rustic road and we're reducing the speed limit, not.
Those two are those two plus, even,
Yeah.
yeah. And even with that, he says you got to name, what the state does not want is for willy-nilly just reducing a speed limit for the hell of it. That's kind of how they look at it. And they certainly would have had an issue potentially with the other portion, but that was defeated. So all we're talking about is this 3/4 of a mile stretch. So.
So can I open a can of worms and
Sure.
ask, when we changed Stone School Road, was that because the number of driveways?
That was the speed study, that was the driveways, that was the site distances and stuff like that.
But there was
That was
one of
Chief
those $10,000.
No,
studies?
no, that was the information generated by the chief, just like Surges did it for the previous one. And I will say, there's a lot of discussion on this at the state level, because in most cases, the state doesn't even want to deal with this anymore. There is a law out there now that they're trying to change it so that even when you're overriding those things, you're saying, state, we're not involved. That's a local maintaining authority's decision. I don't know where that one's gonna go. It's been up and debated, and all the local municipalities say, it's our roads. We should be the only deciders of this. The state is pushing back on that a little bit. I don't know why, but they are pushing back a little bit on that. But that law doesn't exist yet. Okay, that change in law, So the only difference here that I'm hearing from people here, you'd probably like to quiz the chief directly on that. Jim called him, I talked to him. I'm telling you what he said.
I think we're good to go. My only question is, I'm wondering if what the administrative code says is in error, because I can't imagine anyone has asked to increase the speed on a rustic road before. I'm wondering if they meant decrease.
Well, not necessarily, because if you look at the way the rustic road statute reads, it says the speed limit is 45. It doesn't even, it says, no, that's it. But we may lower it.
There is one actually, between here and Burlington that I believe is 55.
Okay.
So I think there has been an instance where it's been increased,
Okay.
just off of yeah.
Okay. That's quite a long stretch, that one, if I remember right.
Yeah, it's on both sides of the, on one side is, I think, 55, the other side is 45.
Okay. All right. So, okay, well, we have a motion.
I just want, and this is not putting words in the chief's mouth, but the conversations, I don't believe that the conversation that he has had with, like the regional director and so forth, were just concerning rustic roads. I think it was road speed changes overall.
Okay.
I don't think it was just rustic roads, but again, he would be the one to answer that, but I don't recall that as part of the conversations.
Yeah, that was what he brought up to them, because the only reason he called them was for this issue. We're not looking at anything else. We're looking at this one, okay? So they knew it was a rustic road deal. You know, and again, like Jim said, it's a separate, it's a different set of rules, you know, so. All right, I think we beat this to death. I think we may have, do a roll call vote here. So I'll, on ordinance 2024-2, an ordinance amending section 10.10.010, sub 1B, changing statutory speed limit on rustic road. On that motion to approve, Clarkowski, aye.
Wales, aye.
Reyes, aye.
Church, aye.
Booker, yes.
Okay, motion carries. So that one I can sign tonight. All right.
I have a nice copy.
I got controls in mine.
All right, while you're doing that, the next item is an ordinance creating section 1.15.030, the Town of East Troy Municipal Code, detaching property from the Town of East Troy. No, we're detaching from the town. It's ordinance number 2024-3. The town board of the Town of East Troy, Walworth County, Wisconsin, is hereby ordained as follows: that section 1.15.030, the Town of East Troy Municipal Code, is hereby created to read as follows. 1. Findings. A petition for direct annexation was received by the Village of East Troy, Wisconsin, Walworth County in the fall of 2023. The petition was signed by all of the electors and the sole owner of the two tax parcel numbers and the right-of-way referenced in the exhibits. On November 27th, 2023, the village board adopted ordinance 2023-9, annexing the two parcel numbers and the right-of-way mentioned herein by at least 2/3 vote of the village board. The Village of East Troy's ordinance provides that pursuant to Wisconsin statute section 66.0217 sub 14, the Village of East Troy shall pay the Town of East Troy for a period of 5 years an amount equal to the amount of property taxes levied by the Town of East Troy on the annexed territory as shown on the tax roll under Wisconsin statute section 70.65 in 2023. The property annexed into the Village of East Troy and detached from the Town of East Troy is contiguous to the Village of East Troy. 2. Detachment of property. Whereas the Village of East Troy has attached the property legally described in Exhibits 1 and 2, attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference. The exhibits are here, by the way. The town board of the Town of East Troy is hereby ordained that the property described in Exhibits 1 and 2 is detached from the Town of East Troy and attached to the Village of East Troy. The Town of East Troy shall update its official map and comprehensive land use plan with its new geographical border. This ordinance shall become effective upon its passage and publication as provided by law. Dated this 5th day of February.
I'll make a motion to waive the second reading.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to waive second reading. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. This property is the property across from Quick Trip. Used to be the Vass. I used to call it the Melon Sales Melon Farm. 2 houses, 1 owner, and they want to develop it into something other than it is now. So we have no call, we have no standing to oppose this. At least we could have a discussion if we had a boundary agreement, but we don't. But this one, if you remember, this is kind of a finger into the town the way it is. So this would kind of make the village's boundary a little more blocky, more contiguous. However, the cemetery that this is adjacent to is still in the town. And I did ask them if they wanted that, and they declined. We need a motion to approve ordinance 2024-3, an ordinance creating section 1.15.030 of the Town of East Troy Municipal Code detaching property from the Town of East Troy. Do we have a motion?
A detachment ordinance is done whenever there is an annexation.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2024-3.
Michelle made the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Wooker, second. Discussion. Like I said, we don't really have a choice in this, but we will get 5 years of taxes, at least the Town of East Troy's amount. So, all right, on the motion to approve, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries.
The next is discussion regarding noise and container ordinances. I did not receive any additional comments from the board. The only action I took after last month's board meeting is I did go and look at the Town of Quantico's code. That code too refers to accessory structures, which is, I'm not sure if that's exactly what we want to regulate or not. So that didn't provide a lot of help other than as part of their ordinance. They did have some requirements on how to shield dumpsters and trash, garbage, recyclable materials, anything stored out of doors that are stored in a container. They require that they be concealed or suitably screened from public view with either a brick or stone wall, a wood fence, a chain link fence with slats, and or landscaping shall be used to totally obstruct vision into the storage area. Any wall, fence, and gate and or vegetative screening shall be installed or erected to a height of at least 1 foot 6 inches above the highest point of the dumpster as generally depicted. It says below, but there's a diagram right above it.
Okay. And then
So I don't know if that helps
Not too
move the
much.
discussion.
You have not seen the Town of Norway one?
I have that one.
Okay. Is that any help?
Well, it has a definition of what they regulate storage pods. And that's what I thought we were.
Norway.
Thank you.
Norway.
That's where I thought we were going with this. And it's defined as a storage pod means a box container constructed of wood, steel, or other similar material, such as portable on-demand storage, also known as pods. They need to be located in the rear or side yards, comply with all Racine County zoning requirements. They are permitted. There has to be a specified use and duration approved by the building inspector, can be granted for good cause shown. Storage pods shall not be used for any seasonal storage, including but not limited to recreational vehicles. Storage pod shall not be used as a garage to house any regularly used motor vehicle. Truck trailer shall not be used as storage pods for storage.
Okay.
So that's what the Town of Norway has
All right.
to say.
I think where we're at, and again, this is very complicated and complex, but I got a couple things here that are going to probably make this a reasonable action eventually. Number one, at the last meeting, Joe Jones had a recommendation and a concern about the process. That was an excellent point. And again, since it was brought in public discussion, we could not discuss it as a board. I'm going to put it on the agenda for March to have that discussion on two things. One of them is, should the town have a process or procedure or an ordinance on how new ordinances are developed. That's number one. Number two, in the newsletter that you guys all get from Towns Association, it was called New Year's Resolutions for Town and Village Officials. And it talks about public records, remote meeting technology. And their number three New Year's resolution was, has your board recently inventoried your local ordinances to see which ones are outdated, need to be amended or rescinded? Are there type regulations you don't have, but maybe should be considering adopting as a local ordinance? And they say proactive boards have been known to appoint an ordinance review committee. I think that's an excellent point. I want to have that discussion next month where we can address what Mr. Jones said in concert with, should we have an ordinance review committee? That would take it kind of off our plates where it's basically saying, well, we're doing it. No, we ain't doing it. Eventually it's the attorney and the police chief that have to deal with this. But again, more public input. I think that'd be great. And that, like I said, that was a point that, a valid point, because we use a process, the county? No. Is there a process dictated by state statute? No. The way we're doing it forever is what's in the state statute on how you town government deals with their own police powers. So that's what I'd like to do, is that it kind of pushes it out a little bit, because there was some concerns on both of these. The other one, before I read a couple letters here, is you were going to have a discussion with the chief more about the noise ordinance and
I did.
how to make that thing more of a useful or
less complicated.
yeah, that's going to be the word. So how'd that discussion go?
Well, he said it sounds to me like the board wants a decibel reading to make it less subjective. I asked about that. He said there are devices we can use. I said, to me, it's still subjective as to what decibel level reading is obnoxious and runs afoul of the ordinance, and which level doesn't.
And who's gonna be there to measure it?
Yeah, well, that's the other thing.
Well, they'd have to measure it probably at the site where the complaint came in.
And it should always be measured from the exact who's going to measure it out
Right.
for how far they are. You know, you can pace it out. My step's bigger than longer than some. I'm just telling you that's the way it's going to go. Who measured it when you going in for your ticket? How do you know he was 100 feet?
Yeah, and the other part of it,
I mean, you're really going to end up having issues. I think.
That's really a hard thing here on, because the other version of it is you put it all on the chief, and it's his. And even though if another officer goes there, the way the ordinance is written so far is the chief makes that determination.
And how often is it gonna be the chief going on nights and weekends when the noise ordinance is in effect after?
Whenever officer is on duty.
Right, but and in my opinion, we have a great group of guys here and officers, and I think that they make realistic.
Reasonable.
I mean, we can
And we
start
have-
ordinancing the heck out of everything if we want to, but I mean.
We've had conversations in the office with the chief about this. And I mean, if you go to someone's house and you give them a warning, say the officer goes to give them a warning, okay, just keep it down, respect your neighbors, that kind of thing. If they're called back, that might be an opportunity to issue a citation.
Sure.
So.
I think
but-
that's how they do it now anyway.
Right. And most people are pretty respectful unless there's alcohol involved or something.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
And I guess as far as the decibel readings, like when the person calls on their neighbor, like they're probably gonna stop before the police gets there to measure the decibels.
Right.
That's my point. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, I think when this conversation came up, I was talking to a few of the officers, like in the chief, and you guys were getting calls like for a big thing was the boats on a lake, right? Was that a big one? And then it's how do you do that? How do you measure that? How do you right? I mean, was that one of the big?
If you're on the water, it seems to amplify all the noise.
Absolutely.
And what we typically do is it reasonable for the time of day that the people is.
Yeah. Which seems reasonable.
1 o'clock in the afternoon and somebody's listening to music on the way down the boat, I don't see that being unreasonable. unusable unless it's excessively loud and obnoxious.
Right.
And someone's rap music might be noise compared to my CCR, which isn't noise. You know, it all depends on your perspective.
So again, I think we're being deliberate here on, making sure we do our due diligence. Where it ends up, who really knows? But I have two letters here that were written, and I forwarded them to the board, and they're going to be in the record, so they'll be in the meeting minutes. One of them was from Frank Schirkenbach. He was a town supervisor years back. He's an attorney. I don't know if he's retired yet. I know he still does pro bono work, but he's an attorney. And he also helped us out when we had a very contentious deal way back with the park trail over here. And he offered to mediate the meeting. A very good guy. So anyway, he wrote this letter: Dear East Troy Town Board members, I want to commend the East Troy Town Board for its ongoing efforts to improve our community by adopting ordinances which require properties to be maintained in a manner consistent with reasonable standards, fostering pleasant, attractive neighborhoods. The board should neither encourage nor condone those relatively few residents who insist upon having a right to create and maintain their personal version of Dog Patch USA, in spite of neighbors' objections. Unregulated clutter invariably generates neighborhood blight and discontent. In my experience, a prior board's permissive actions long ago contributed to an eventual contamination of groundwater underlying our current compost center. The prior owner of the site insisted on his right to, among others, keep abandoned cars in various storage containers, some holding questionable environmentally harmful substances. The entire community ended up paying for the prior board's inability to more timely and decisively deal with the unfortunate situation. In my experience, unregulated use of storage containers not only creates neighborhood unsightliness, but encourages the mischief of storing potentially harmful and unhealthy items. There will always be those who insist on a right as citizens to be free of claimed encroachment of modern day government. Most of us have to rely upon our government to promote the general welfare, including the regulation of conduct and practices which are potentially detrimental to the environment and the community at large. I encourage the board members to continue in your efforts to craft comprehensive and effective ordinances to improve the town of East Troy. Respectfully submitted, Frank Schirkenbach. So I voted the record. And the second one, Barney's here, but he asked me to read this one. Again, this is Barney Bong. I think maybe the town board should be looking at possible new storage container ordinance in a different light. One of the board members said it might be better having a container than junk on property. The town can order the junk removed, but not the container. Example, both Bob and a neighbor have residential properties side by side with their houses on the west side of each lots. Bob puts a big deck and a hot tub on the rear of his house with all permits. Neighbor only has a house on the west side of his property with a 3-car attached garage. He works as a machinist and sometimes repairs small engines in his garage. He has for several years of small engine parts in his yard. Town has ordered him to remove junk. He purchases a 30-foot blue container and puts it on the east side of his property, 20 feet from his property line, across from Bob's deck, with all the necessary permits from the county. It can be there forever, all legal. The neighbor cleaned up his yard and put all junk in a pod. His yard looks nice now, except he has put his mowers, four-wheelers, boats, snowmobiles, trailers, and a bobcat east of the pod in the 20-foot to the property line. He put some concrete blocks 5 feet from the property line to hold poles to support 25 by 15-foot blue tarp he got to cover the equipment which is between the pod and the poles by the property line. No need for a permit for tarp. Town has no say, only county zoning unless junk is stored there. Bob has no say also. He is not happy. Last month I talked to the county zoning again and asked about a pod on a trailer. It appears that if a pod is not on the ground, it is not a storage structure. No permit required. Is this what the town wants? If the town board doesn't pass some ordinances, is the town board sacrificing the town for the wants of 1% of the population? Again, I say the days are gone when you can do whatever you want with your property. Wisconsin's Court of Appeals, 1997. Maybe the town should look into what the town of Bloomfield did about its zoning and to do our own zoning. So, did I copy you with these so you have
Yeah.
them? So you have them for the record.
Yeah.
So, again, what this is, I think this is leading us is, again, we're supposed to do our due diligence and we are looking out for the whole town. It makes it sound like, at least I've been accused that me, certainly ain't me. If I get complaints, I forward them to the right place, wherever that may be. And we heard from Mr. Bung last month saying how the petition got out there. We heard from Mr. Mills that said, I was directed to go, meet with the chief and look at our ordinances here and make sure we're all good. So that's how we got here. There ain't no backpedaling here. What it is us making sure that we, intake all the public input and come up with a solution that, is good. Maybe this becomes an issue that, an annual meeting question, which we did with the ATVs.
I'd prefer that over an ordinance committee.
I too made a note about the ordinance procedure to put on the agenda for next month. But
Okay.
my question was, who owns that?
The what?
Who owns what?
Who owns developing that ordinance procedure? Who's gonna draft it for us?
Well, it would be Attorney Mills that would draft it,
Well,
if we direct him to.
but you need to tell me what model you use, what is it that you're looking to accomplish?
Right. There's very few towns that have a process that differs from state statute. Matter of fact, I couldn't find any.
Right.
I
There's
imagine
usually a
some out
reason
there.
for that.
Imagine counties, obviously, due to their exposure and what they have, theirs is tied to the public comments
hearings,
part of
yeah.
it. It's a public hearing, make sure everybody gets their kick and they have their plan laid out. And in ours, just like, remember our bonfire one, which was a much ado about nothing, that one took several months before it got done. This is gonna be the same thing if it ever happens. So I will put that on for next month.
Well, that was gonna be my question, like it was discussion only, we were, we denied discussion about this, which is, I think if it was on our agenda and we changed it.
No, discussion only. We're still having discussion.
Okay, so 2 months ago when it was on and we decided to change it to February, it was in December to bring it up in February and that's great, but we didn't discuss it that day. Now we discussed it last month and now we're discussion only. So are we waiting here to get a committee together on this? Is that what your intention is?
My
here?
intention is very pure.
Mhm.
Mr. Jones brought up a good point.
Absolutely. No, and I agree with that.
We could not
just explained
discuss that during public comments and we didn't. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think this board should look at that. Whether we should do that or not, both on the committee and on the actual, should we have a process or an ordinance on how to create an ordinance?
So, and then into the discussion about, with this and even discussion with, you can have buildings, you can have drums of oil, you can store stuff in all sorts of stuff. It's not just storage containers. And I like the point of the old landfill or the landfill
That's
now,
a
if
good
there's,
point.
the issue, that is a great point, but right now, according to our ordinance, and correct me if I'm wrong, whatever couple of storage containers are out there don't have to leave anyway. Right? This is moving forward.
This is
Let's just say we go through with this,
Correct.
right? So no neighbor's gonna be happy no matter who's having an issue because nothing's changing for that anyway, right?
That's
in the
correct.
county zoning.
That's correct.
And I keep driving around and I just personally I don't see we don't have a storage container problem that I can find. And I know John said something in locations and that's probably true. Maybe I can't see anything driving down Stringer's Bridge as far as that goes, but maybe there is places that have 50 acres and they're out in the back. I've heard of something off of, even with, by you guys, but then there's also someone else who's like doing, I don't know, a winery or something, but those also, the county said, okay,
Those are conditional use permits.
for us to start our own zoning department seems to me to be a little ridiculous at this point. And you even, as we discussed last month, Vince gives permission for pods when they're getting a permit.
They're getting a building permit.
They're getting a building permit, so they're getting a permit for their dumpster, they're getting a building permit for their pods, they're getting permits.
Correct.
Vince already has control of that aspect of
Yes.
things, which was a discussion that we had last month. I'm not, I don't think at this point we have any issue. Whatever is out there right now anyway isn't gonna change.
Right.
So we're not helping that aspect of it. I think there's a lot of time and energy going into this, and I totally agree. Due diligence is definitely our job, right? I mean, that's the way it is, but.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, I think we're starting to, I think we're nitpicking a lot of this stuff. That's no different than the noise ordinance. Like
I hear you.
like I said, I gotta get rid of my steam whistle, you know,
Yeah.
like what?
You have one?
I'm just saying, you know, I mean, and I know you're just using it, and I'm not trying to be mean,
Yeah.
but I mean, it just feels like a whistle, or, you know, the yacht club's been here for how long, and now someone wants to, because they blow the horn 3 times for a race to start. Where do we, come on, where do we stop on this, you know?
Well, maybe
I
instead
don't-
of,
My opinion, but.
maybe instead of ordinance review committee or a new ordinance as to how an ordinance gets adopted, maybe the one change we can make to the code is that a majority of the board needs to approve the drafting of a new ordinance, regardless of whatever subject it is.
That's what I thought we did when we authorized you to do that.
Well, this
That
is,
was in
that was a
That
general,
was a-
that was a general thing, not a specific.
Or making it
Topic.
something new, or, you know, if something's presented to the board, like you said, you had the petition, you have your due diligence to have to look into it, but.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
and I would look
and I
into it
did-
if we had a problem, but I don't think we have a problem.
I'm sorry, Chad. I did come back after meeting with the chief and Scott and made some definitional changes, changed penalties to bring them up to code. Maybe I should have come to the board with, you know, this is what our code does not have. How does the board feel about these new ordinances?
Fair.
Even the penalties, I think, was right way to go, you know, I mean.
Because I think maybe to Chad's point is like, I don't think we're even ready to vote next month because I don't think we have edits or changes
Correct.
Oh, that's
to
correct.
what we talked
Yes,
about.
that's
Like,
correct.
like you know, 1 per lot, no matter what size, those,
Yeah.
I think
Right.
there are a lot of those things that
There was a lot
likely
of.
agree on.
Added,
Yeah, but I don't know when we're gonna be ready.
Right.
You might not ever be by the time, I mean, you gotta make definitions for this stuff. That alone is gonna, you know, I mean.
Well, that's not gonna be
that's
hard
what-
for me because I have envisioned what it is the board is actually trying to regulate, but I still haven't heard the board really tell me what is its goal.
To let Vince do what he does and let the county do what they
Yeah.
do and carry on.
Well,
That's what I'm
At this-
hearing,
at-
don't have
At
one.
this point, you've
Right.
heard me, I mean, everybody here has heard me say it on multiple occasions. I just.
Yeah, and
We don't see him
Vince hasn't got a problem.
issue.
He gets it, and he can't do a thing with it because it's not a structure. It's not a structure.
Right.
So that in
That's
itself is a
right.
problem. You know, he needs to have a definitive answer from us that says what he can and can't do. And right now, he can't really do anything, even though the zoning permit from the county says, get all your local permits. Okay, it says you gotta do that.
But I would think if he was having an issue with a dumpster sitting in the front yard of someone's newly constructed house
Or a remodel.
or remodel, he can say, I'm not issuing an occupancy permit until your dumpster's gone.
The building permit part with a regular structure is good. It's good. I mean, he has everything he needs there to do his job. And this particular issue.
So this is just more of a storage issue.
Yes. It's an accessory structure issue is what it is. And the county does not define that properly either. You know?
No, I disagree with you there. I don't believe it's an accessory structure
Well, that's,
issue.
maybe that's the issue.
That is the issue
is the
because I'm stuck on pause, not knowing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Okay.
And if your definition is different than what I was envisioning, then we're further away than I thought.
I do think, what you get from the county will have to be brought forward too then. You know, because Vince, he has
What do you
nothing.
mean what I get from the
Oh,
county?
you know, the discussion that, whether or not what we're talking about here is indeed an accessory structure, or it's not. If it's not,
Right.
then Vince has really got nothing to say about it, unless we give him that authority. So, okay, I think what we have here, as we were saying, is these are both very complex. They're very thought-provoking as well as time-consuming. And you're right, we end up saying, we're good with this, or we don't need that. We're not there yet.
No, but it's, and the reason is like even our burn ordinance. There's a couple hundred houses on Lake Beulah that can't even have a campfire.
But the campfires are.
Their dock is there, their boathouse is there, a tree is there, their deck comes up. You have to be certain, like, you can't even just, hey kids, let's roast marshmallows. Like, that's where I'm saying where we start to get so involved in things, you gotta let people.
Actually, if you read that ordinance, the campfires are exempt.
I think they might be.
Yeah, campfires are exempt from that. So,
Leaves and you name it, you know, I mean.
yeah, so, okay, I think we exhausted this. I think everybody's got their view on this, on how to proceed. And we're just gonna do our job, and where it leads us, it leads us. I'll put on the agenda next month to have that discussion about those two items, you know, the process as well as the ordinance, or even possibly the April meeting, you know, the annual meeting, maybe have that as a advice. Again, the electors can't direct that, but it's advice. And we certainly did it with the ATVs, didn't we? You know,
So am I supposed to get for the board the county definition of accessory structure for the next meeting?
I think we need to know that in order to answer the question on what we're regulating. I think we need that.
Well, even all the work that you've put, even all the work you've put, the time you've put into this already. So we're just
Honestly,
looking-
it hasn't been a lot.
Well-
I didn't do almost anything this last month.
But what I'm hearing is storage containers, ocean containers. I'm not hearing, because Vince takes care of pods.
Yes.
He takes care of dumpsters.
Yes.
So the only thing that really should be, I mean, his ordinance could be pretty small.
It could be.
It already is.
I mean,
It's like
but
2 pages.
It
I'm
also,
just saying,
I need to order,
it literally
add a
could
penalty
be like
section.
this, you know, your speed, if you really want to get down to it. But like I say,
it is potentially
we don't have
nothing there, and maybe part of the junk ordinance. We have to determine.
I was gonna say, maybe if we bolster our junk ordinance and leave container ordinance alone altogether, we might be able to accomplish.
Yes.
Okay, I'm coming back to the same. Bill, I don't know what you want. Barb, I don't know what you want, other than residential only and maybe no front or side yard. Michelle gave me suggestions, but I don't know if you really think this ordinance is necessary or not. Same for Chad. And then I just found out tonight what you had in mind is completely different than I was thinking.
Well, that's the issue is the building inspector can't do anything. That's a problem. That's a problem.
Well, if it's
If
not
it doesn't define
accessory
directly.
structure, don't we need to create some sort of definition and?
But we don't regulate structures.
No.
This isn't a structure. That's.
Exactly. So why are you calling it an accessory structure?
I didn't.
No, I'm saying, but everyone else
Right.
does.
I did
And that's
because
where
I
I'm
think
saying, no, this is not what we want to regulate.
Okay. I don't think we're gonna be looking in the mirror here and repeating ourselves here. So we'll,
Till next month.
yeah, we'll put that on there to have that discussion on that part, and I will include the deal about the annual meeting. Okay. I do think that, you know, again, more input is better. We got plenty of input so far. I think it's all been good. I think today's input we had was actually excellent, you know, so let's let's move on.
Well, just one, last,
Yeah.
if I could. But no different than Mr. Stoss has this petition. It sounds like he has quite a few going around. So there's gonna be a lot of input for
There'll be
next
more
month's,
information
next
there.
month's meeting. And,
Yep.
you know, it could be more people than show up at the annual meetings, you know,
Good.
as far as petition wise, but.
Okay.
All I plan on doing is bringing the county's definition of accessory structure and then narrowing the draft ordinance to a definition of what a storage container is. And then you need to decide as a board, does the town want to regulate storage containers? Because my advice is we don't get into the regulating accessory structure game.
Good point. Good point. Okay. Yep.
If I could also add from the perspective of open records, shipping containers, storage containers, defining, if we're gonna use multiple terminology to describe the same product, so to
Mhm.
speak, I think that needs to be.
Yep.
part of that.
Defined. Yep.
Yep.
Thank you.
Agreed. Okay, let's move. License and special event permits.
I have two for from the Lakeville Yacht Club for the Youth Regattas for July 11th to the 14th and the 18th to the 21st, both from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. The chief has reviewed and approved.
I make a motion to approve it.
I'll second.
Chad and Michelle, discussion. And Chief, you reviewed this yourself?
Yep.
All right. On the motion to approve that youth regatta, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries. All right, special and pending meetings.
Tomorrow's the first day of in-person absentee, but is only for Burlington School, only for the Burlington School District referendum, which is a total of 10 voters in the entire town. So nobody else come. February 7th and 21st are the next planning commission meetings. February 20th from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. We will be here for the spring primary for all 10 of those residents.
If they all come before 5 o'clock, you can't leave.
No, you just have to be here the whole day. February 20th at 5:30 is also the next fire district meeting at the firehouse. February 21st at 6 o'clock. Did I get that right? The Booth Lake Pavilion Lottery. and meeting.
6:30.
I thought I had.
Town of Troy.
Yep, it's at the Town of Troy Town Hall. But we
I
always
will
started it at 6, so. March 6th and the 20th is the next planning commission. March 11th is the next town board meeting. March 19th from 8 to 4 is the first day of in-person absentee for the spring election and presidential preference primary. And April 2nd, of course, is the spring election and presidential preference primary. And Gene and I wanted to throw out there that after the police garage building is to be closed on Friday, we would still be working, but we would be transitioning and moving stuff to the new building from the basement to the storage. And then we have to clean out the upstairs storage to get ready for the courtroom office remodel.
Multiple Fridays.
Multiple
Ongoing
Fridays.
thing.
Yeah, till we, probably a month, maybe
At
2
least,
months.
we'd be here working, but the building would be closed to the public.
Yes.
So that we could get records moved and so forth.
I think if you get interrupted on that type of action, you'd have a lot longer.
Oh,
period.
it'd take
Yeah.
3 months, 4 months instead of a month and a
Quicker the
half.
better.
Yep,
And how
exactly.
far in advance would you have to post that? That's the thing. I'm
Well, we
thinking
would put it on the Facebook page and the website, of course.
Right. But I'm thinking
And then-
like you need to get at least 2 to 3 weeks notice.
Oh, absolutely, because we'll know when they're getting close to being done, and then I'll just kind of fall into line
Like,
after
keep
that.
putting it out there.
Yeah,
Okay, sounds
but
good.
just something for y'all to think about maybe next
Put on the
month.
agenda.
Yep.
Okay, we need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Who second?
Barb.
Barb, second. On the motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. Meeting is done. There will be no discussion of town business